Today's episode of Round Guy Radio is going to be sponsored by Henshaw Trailer Sales of Richland, Iowa, Smithburg Auto of Fairfield, Iowa, the Packwood Locker, and the Cedar Rapids Titans, who you can see March 20th on Round Guy Radio's YouTube channel as they take on the Wyoming Cavalry. And I got Scotty Melvin on the phone. We're going to do some end of the year basketball wrap up, but we got a major announcement here. Moving forward, it's all going to be on YouTube. And I don't even know if we're going to do the podcast anymore, but we're definitely going to YouTube. And you need to, if you want to follow us and see the games and see what we're doing and the interviews and everything, it'll all be on YouTube now. And it's Round Guy Radio YouTube Live. So, I can't stress enough. That's where the content's going to be moving forward. This platform was a waste of time. Podbeam was a ridiculously bad business venture that we got involved in, and we are definitely cutting them out, and we've already stopped them from taking money from us anymore. But and then the other big announcement is there's been a new law passed. High school football games you'll always be able to get in with cash from now on. They barred the teams and the athletic association from charging everything electronic anymore. So if you're, a grandpa and and grandma want to go see your kid play, you can just pull a $20 bill out of your pocket and they'll have to let you in. I think that's good news. What, Scotty, I guess that's my first question for you. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I've gotten to where it's not a problem for me. I'm not super tech savvy, but I do okay when I got to order the ticket ahead of time, and I have them pulled up generally when I walk up there to get scanned in. So I'm definitely happy that cash will be an option going forward. It just makes it easier on folks that aren't as tech savvy or whatever. Maybe sometimes you show up. I went to a Mid-Prairie football game, where I had no signal. So I had done everything I'm supposed to do, and I couldn't pull it up. And I learned that day, you better screenshot that stuff when you do have signal, because if you walk up there and you don't have it, now what? So there's definitely a big upside to having the cash option again going forward.
All right, Scotty, what's your thoughts on the basketball season this year? I said you had some guys you wanted to acknowledge, and all I know is you called up and you said you wanted to, kind of wrap the basketball season up a little bit, maybe preview this Notre Dame, was they're the only team we got left.
Yeah, and I think we called it early on. We knew Notre Dame had the best shot probably of anybody in Southeast Iowa taking a trip to state. They got it done. They'll play Tuesday at 3:15, 3:25, something like that. So that we called that one, didn't we? And then we thought Keokuk would make a run with Jackson Clark coming back and not staying down in Florida. And they did that and made a really good showing up at Pella the other night. Couldn't quite get over the hump, but they sure closed the gap compared to that first round matchup they had early in the fall, or I should say winter season. But yeah, man, I mean, it went like we thought, and we got a team up there.
Yeah, I got to say, I can't be prouder of Coach Protratz and the Keokuk Chiefs. And, the Pella team is, very, very good, and that's why they're in the state. And, it's tough to make it to state, and it doesn't, and they did a great job this season. But we are just down to Notre Dame as the only team left. Can we start there, Scotty? Can you tell me a little bit of who they play, or am I?
Yeah, and I don't know much about this team, but they're going to play Bellevue Public, which is, I believe, a 5th or 6th seed up there. So Notre Dame's a higher seed. So they earned that with their body of work this season. Bellevue Public, man, they have a common opponent with Notre Dame. They did play an in-town rival there, Marquette Catholic. They are not in the same conference, so they only played the one time this year. But Bellevue Public beat Marquette Catholic, who's in the state tournament as well, 54-45. I don't know how that game went. I couldn't tell you the flow of it too much without really digging in deep on bound, but we know that Marquette Catholic's a state-ranked team, very highly rated all year long. I don't know if Bellevue Public had as much spotlight on them as this Marquette team did, but remember several weeks back, a couple months ago or whatever, that was, I think, Burlington Notre Dame's really big first test of the year was they were going to play those guys because there was an out-of-area team. And we want to see how they compared to a state-ranked team, not from Southeast Iowa. And they flew by that team. I think they won by 14. So I'm not saying it was a blowout or anything, but I think Notre Dame handled it pretty well from all accounts that I heard. So this means nothing. I mean, Bellevue Public beat Bellevue Marquette, Notre Dame beat Marquette. So it's not really a lot to go on, and it's always a big trap to kind of compare common opponent scores because it doesn't really tell the whole story, and matchups are what matter. But just scanning through their roster real quick, Bellevue Public is a lot like Calamus Wheatland, Dave. They have a lot of 6 foot and above kids. They've got, I mean, just a ton of guys that are at least 6'2". I'm seeing a 6'6" center, and I believe he's the team leader in scoring and rebound, Keyshawn DeShaw. And they got a couple 6'4" guys, several, like I said, 6'2" guys. I mean, you look at their roster, there's about 8 dudes that are 6'2". And there's another 6'4" kid that's a junior forward. I don't know how much all these guys contribute, but that's a lot of height and length on a Class 1A team. Having said that, it's not like, over the top height, like anybody that's got to face Keokuk had to go up against Jackson Clark, including Notre Dame. And we saw, what Jackson would do with his size there. They won't face that, but definitely a lot of length, very similar to Calamus Wheatland that way. I think Notre Dame's going to have to take care of the ball. Worry about teams that got this much height having arms and hands waving around and in the way and breaking up passes and things like that. But I think if Notre Dame does what they do and put the ball in Shea's hands, let him create either shots or shots for, his teammates or himself, and play their hard-nosed defense that they do, go on a run here or there in the game, they'll do just fine and move on. But it's going to be a tough test, and you know what? For me, it's like a 50-50 game, but I would say that for any game up at state, really.
Well, I'm liking Notre Dame myself. I really think I don't know about the game after this one, but I think in this game, I'm favoring them to win. But I want to mention a little statistic there that I went through the whole 5 years that you and me have been doing this, Scotty, and we have one state champion, and that was the that was New London's baseball team. And outside of that, Waco won one game, and no one else that's ever got to state's ever won a game.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk a little bit about, how hard it is to win there and why I think that maybe you or I both think maybe that they do have a pretty strong chance here to get a win at the state.
Well, obviously you got to be really good, but with each round that you advance, it seems the opponents just get tougher and tougher and tougher. So not only do you have to play the way you play, but you've got to bring your A game every time. You can't have an off night. You can't have bad luck when it comes to getting the loose balls or maybe even, I hate to bring up the refs, but you can't have a game that gets called in a direction that doesn't suit your style of play, because it can land you in trouble and get you out of there. But so a lot of things got to line up. No injuries, you know what I mean? Just a ton of stuff. Football more so seems like on that end than basketball. But yeah, it's tough to advance to state, and then when you get there, it's tough to be the last man standing. There can only be one, in each class, and it's probably the hardest thing to do in sports. I put it up there. I feel like it's tougher to win a state title in a high school than it is to win a national championship in college or in a sport or a Super Bowl or some of these other, highly, I guess, elite level championship type situations that all sports have. I go to high school as being the toughest. There's just so many things that got to go right. You can't just be good, not even necessarily the best. Sometimes the best doesn't get there, and that's true in any sport or any level of sport, but I feel like it's just magnified in high school.
All right. Well, what do you want to talk about next?
Well, I got my team up, and it's got all the guys that you, myself, and of course, Coach Van Fleet had talked about. But then I got rolling on checking stats, and I didn't want to limit this all area team too much. So if you don't want to call it the round guy team, that's fine. It could be Scotty's team. I don't care.
All right.
But,
well, we'll do that. We already did the round guy team. There was a lot of great players this year.
Well, mine, you know how I do. Generally, whatever sport we're talking about, I'm going to honor the seniors when it comes to the end of the season. And I'm not trying to ignore the underclassmen. It's just that they're going to get another round with us next year or whatever. So I try to send the seniors out with some recognition. And that's pretty much what I've done here. Although there were 3 underclassmen that I had to add to the list that we'll call honorable mention or whatever there at the end. And guys that we'll be looking forward to seeing next year and some of them beyond. But the senior list, man, it's a good one. And I think I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. And that's a pretty good bench, isn't it? And that's a full basketball team for me. You got 11-man rotation. These are guys that if they were on my team, boy, I would be confident in winning any game against anybody with this crew at this level. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about our players of the year first. Of course, you got Shea Stevens there at Burlington Notre Dame and Jackson Clark at Keokuk. Those are the top guys in the area. They are the best of the best. And I just want to mention some stats too as we go through this list. Shea averaged 24.5 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, and 6.6 assists per game. That is a crazy stat line. He does it all for Burlington Notre Dame, but he's got a good supporting cast. That's why they're at state. And but they're going to go as he goes. He needs to. He may not have to score the most points on any given night, but the ball must go through him. Whether it's him setting up other guys or playing some tough defense down low on the other team's best player because he's got some height and some length, and definitely creating his own shot. And his guy's setting him up for some outside stuff too, because he'll bury a three in anybody's face. But his team's got to help set him up sometimes too. But the success there at Notre Dame is going to go through Shea. Now moving on to Jackson, he had the monster stat line that you heard Coach Portras talking about all year long. It seemed to keep growing and growing. Finished up the season at 28.3 points per game, 67% from the field, which is insane because Jackson doesn't just put in layups. He shoots threes and whatnot. He's got some outside game. He can handle the ball too for a big guy. 32% from 3-point range, man. That's good for a 6'10 kid. 17.7 rebounds per game. That number is got to be tops probably in every class of this in the state of Iowa this year. And then I wanted to mention too that not only did he have that gaudy rebounds per game number, 6.8 offensive rebounds per game. That's where he really shined to me in all the games I watched at Keokuk this year. His guys, they miss shots. You got a 6'10 kid down there grabbing those loose rebounds and putting them right back in. Sometimes they live off of that for a game if they had to, and he was as good as they come. And of course that height helped, but that's a pretty crazy stat line from Jackson. So those are the two top dudes. Do you want to add anything to this? I'm all ears because I can't imagine we'll see two like these guys in the same season again, but I've been wrong before.
Well, I would just describe those players as very, very good.
Yeah, some of the best we've had around here.
I mean, just really, really some of the top level players we've about ever seen, or at least among them. I think if we were going to do an all team for all 5 years, I think both of Shea Stevens and Jackson Clark would be on it.
I'd agree with that. In fact, I've added Shea to my own little short list of top players I've seen in Southeast Iowa the whole time I've lived here. And granted, there are some gaps in of years of the time I've been in Iowa where I didn't get to many basketball games or whatever, so I may have missed out on some kids. But Shea's overall skill set and everything and his athleticism, this year proved to me that he's in that short list of guys that I'll never forget in the time that I've had here in Iowa. So Jackson too, his game's just a little different. It's a 16 kid doesn't come along around here too often, especially with skills. And so he's kind of on his own planet there. But those two for sure. And the time we've been doing this podcast together on the sports stuff, they are on that list, man, the short list. To add to those guys, though, I've got Max Griffin from Meepo. This kid averaged 18.4 per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, shot over 31% from 3-point range, 73% from the free throw line, which I know you'll like. He was fun to watch. This kid could go off any given night. We had several of those kind of guys. Their overall average may not have been as high as you might even think, because I swear there's nights when you see these dudes pop up for 30 or whatever. And sometimes when I see their overall average at the end of the year, I'm like, I thought it'd be a little more than that. But Max was definitely one of the top scorers in the area and a great basketball player for the Meepo Bulldogs, and from miss watching him. Got Cole Milliken from Pekin, the one guy from the north, I think, that I have on the list. And there's more that are deserving, Dave, but some of those guys in the north I didn't get to see, and some of the better ones are coming back. So they're not seniors, so I didn't put them in the list. But Cole, man, I couldn't leave him out. I don't care what class he's in. 19.4 points per game, shot 37% from 3-point range, which is insane. 75% from the free throw line, another number there that stands out to me. Any of the kids who are shooting 75 and up from the free throw line nowadays get a nod from me, because it's getting to be kind of a lost art there.
Go ahead. And all these guys he's talking about, they're also all-around guy teams. My favorite thing Max Griffin ever did was get his 1,000 high school point on Round Guy Radio. I certainly appreciate him for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, moving on to Lane Rung, I was about to bring him up there at Holy Trinity, man. 19.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game. I feel like we got several guys that were just like clones of each other, kind of built the same, played the same style and all that stuff, put up similar numbers. Lane also had 3.6 assists per game, so he was a contributor, many facets there for the Crusaders. But man, he wowed me the couple of times I got to see him in person this year. I just so happened to catch him on some of his best nights, and that was pretty special to watch. And I think his ceiling is high if he chooses to play at the next level. I think that's a kid that could put on a little strength, little size, and be a force at least a small college or something like that, which Trinity seems to be churning out lately. Moving on to West Burlington, Figgy, Aiden Figueroa, 14.8, steady as they come. I feel like he's had the same stat line since he's been starting for the West Burlington Falcons. I think as a sophomore, he might have been out there as a freshman too, but 14.8 per game, points wise, 8.2 rebounds per game. He didn't lead the team. I had to do the math on that because Silas Lotzow led the team in rebounds. So between Figgy and Silas, they had some really good rebounding for the Falcons this year. But Aiden also shot 33% from 3-point range. I don't think he shot a ton of them, but that's a pretty good number. And then he was another free throw guy, 74%. That's pretty darn good. He's been a pleasure to watch these last 3 years. This was his year. He was always the young guy on the team with the older kids that are graduated and gone from the last couple of years. And now he's moving on as well, and there'll be a new batch in there to take his place. But we've sure enjoyed watching Figgy these last 3 years for the Falcons.
Well, I'd like to say something about Silas Lotso. I think he might have been the player I didn't know very much about that really made the biggest impression on me this year.
Yeah.
I guess call him newcomer of the year or most improved player of the year. Yeah, Silas Lotso was terrific, man. And also Figueroa, he leads the league in smiles. I mean, he never stops smiling, and I really like that kid and really enjoyed talking to his dad. He used to play for the Burlington Bees.
Yeah, well, it's got to be genetic. Now, I see his dad around. I haven't really had the chance to meet him yet or speak to him. I don't see him when I do see him at the games. I don't see him smiling as much as Aiden and JC. But JC plays ball for the Hawks there and baseball down in Burlington, the SEC Blackhawks, and he's the same, man. Every time he comes through the gym, he's got the biggest grin on his face. These guys are just happy to be telling what they're doing. They're a lot of fun to be around, kids like that.
Well, I'm agreeing with you.
So, moving on, Nolan Guzman, one of the best I saw all year taking the ball to the hole. Reminds me a lot of Shea Stevens, similar type of skill set as far as handling the ball and taking it to the rack. I don't know, that his outside game is as developed as Shea's, but he certainly can get to the rim with the best of them. He averaged 20 points per game, 3 assists per game, another 75% free throw shooter, 6 rebounds per game for Nolan, too. So he was obviously the leader of a Fort Madison team that just lacked experience this year. And he shined, and I think they had a lot of upside. I think the record was not nearly fair to what they were actually putting on the court every night. I think that team was really good, and they just caught kind of a bad year and some bad timing. Missed their big guy for a good chunk of the year too, but they were showing a lot of improvement at the end of the season, and I thought they were fun to watch when I got the opportunity to watch the Bloodhounds. Nolan was a real pleasure to watch play basketball, and we'll miss him, another senior, be graduating this spring.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of dig into stats when it came to the teams in the North, Dave, because I didn't get to see much of these guys. And these are going to be dudes you're familiar with. Chase Hafley at Keota.
Yeah.
15.9 points per game, 5.2 assists per game. He's one of the better players in the, we saw him on the preseason top 60 list or whatever that was from the Des Moines
40.
Register here in Iowa.
Yeah.
Top 40. Yeah.
Well, and he had a bad ankle sprain early in the year. And he was probably only averaging about 6 points a game, 5 or 10 games into the season. So that average is all second half stuff,
Yeah,
and
you're right,
and he's a terrific player. And they didn't have the Billy Kindred this year, but they had a pretty outstanding season. They had a really great record. They might have lost a game or two they shouldn't have, but they also won a few games they shouldn't have, including I think they beat Montezuma and Hillcrest Academy.
Yeah.
They Coach Stout, he's about to break 400 wins. He's about 394 or something like that after this year. So
he's one of the best around at what he does. A lot of fun to watch his teams play. They're always well coached. because he's a good coach. And so Kyoto's always knocking on the door of 20 wins, it seems like, no matter who they got on the floor. That's just kind of the tradition there now. We just kind of expect it.
And I got to see him play for Iowa Wesleyan. When I went to Iowa Wesleyan and I go watch the games,
Wow. Yeah.
he was a playing on the team. So I think that gives him a big help. That's probably what
Yeah.
really helped him out a lot, was me being
Yeah.
there watching him.
That's-
But, no, it's a small world, I guess.
yeah, it is. That's cool history, though. I like to talk about the Lang boys from Mount Pleasant. I watched their dad play for the no longer in existence Marquette Catholic School from West Point back in the olden days. I watched him play at Iowa Wesleyan too, and now here's his sons playing for the Panthers. It kind of dates you a little bit, but man, it's been a fun ride. I'll give it that. So to the west, the neighbors, the friends, and sometimes the rivals of the Kyoto Eagles, Sigourney Savage's John Burke, man.
Oh
I
man.
did not get to see Sigourney play, but these stats, Dave: 14.7 points per game, 9.6 rebounds per game. I had to look up his height because I'm looking at his stats. And I'm thinking, well, he must have been a big kid, 6'5", 6'6", or something. John's only 6'2", so that made it all the more impressive to me to see his numbers on the year. And Sigourney had a fine season as well, and he was a big reason why, from what I can tell. Like I said, I didn't get to see those guys this year, but I definitely followed along with what you guys were talking about all season long on that end of the area, and that kid stands out for the Savages.
Well, we did create an award that this I gave out this year that I never give out before, but we had a JV coach of the year, and it is Coach Trimmel up there for Sigourney. 2 years ago, they seemed to go almost maybe undefeated. Maybe they lost one game that I don't know about, but they just pummeled everyone that they played. And this year I went to see them, and I didn't even recognize one kid on a squad from last year, and they did exactly the same thing. He's doing a great job up there, and we're really proud of the JV sports that we cover. And I've never seen anybody, you know, have such a success at JV like he does up there. And he must have a heck of a season, and it's paying off up there. And Solon Yates also had a big year, and he set the school record for 3-pointers in a game, and it was his own record that he brought. And yeah, Coach Islick and the Sigourney Savages had a terrific year. I'm glad you're mentioning them.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's this JV class coming up. If it develops like it could and should, they might be making some major noise here in the next year or two.
Yeah, I think that the future looks so bright. They got to wear shades over there.
Yeah, so it sounds like. I hope it's the same for football too, because I'm already, as we're talking the wind down of basketball, I'm already thinking ahead to football, Dave. You know how
Well,
I am.
it's that's
So
the big that's the big deal for us, and it's certainly going to be exciting. I guess the big news, the off season news is Coach McNutt's not going to be there next year. But I did get to talk to him. I just texted him a little bit and just basically told him everybody at Round Guy Radio was really happy and appreciated all that he did for the Chiefs, and he was very appreciative of hearing that. And well, that was a sure a great era for us, and a big coach, uh, for us to talk about. Someone with his kind of experience and stuff.
we brought a lot of excitement to the area because of who he is, and that's always good. Nice shot in the arm for little old Southeast Iowa there. But we also kind of in the back of our heads, a guy like him, and he even said it in interviews, like people were asking, how long you plan on being there and stuff like that. And I saw a quote where he said, I'm just living in the moment. So, you know what I mean? That tells me that, he could be here for a few years. He might be here for one or whatever. And so we're just glad we got him while we did. And best of luck to him moving on. It'll be interesting. Whoever takes over is going to have some really good players to work with down there for sure. So coming into next year with Kirk Joy and the young quarterback there too. So
Yeah, Kurt, the joy of life. I kind of lovingly refer to him as Bob Ross. He had a terrific game against Pella. I'll tell you that.
yeah, he really shined coming off the bench for the Chiefs in basketball this year. So we may be on this team in another couple of years or next year. So let me talk about the last two guys, and then I got just three underclassmen. But my last two seniors probably didn't get talked enough about, at least not down here. Again, for me, they being up north, it's a little bit harder for me to get eyes on them. Justin Faulkner from Wapello turned in a really good senior season, 13.9 points per game, 7.3 rebounds per game, and 6.3 assists per game. He led Wapello in everything, really, the stats that matter. And he was probably the catalyst behind the games that they won this year, by and large.
I got to see him. We had they're one of the teams that got a chance to be on Round Guy Radio, and it wasn't everybody, but I tried as hard as I could to get as many teams as I could on there, and I thought we did a really good job. But Faulkner, well, he was a terrific player, and he was a terrific football player too.
Yeah, for sure. Great athlete. I got to see him play last year down at West Burlington. Of course, West Burlington, took Wapello to the woodshed that night. But Justin stood out to me, and I thought, well, they've got a piece there. He's only a junior. Let's see what they do with the senior year. And I don't know what their final record was, but I don't think they had too bad of a season up there at Wapello. It's tough competition, though, Bryce Henry be my last guy, Dave, Mid Prairie. I read a lot about him this year. I heard a lot about him. Did not get to see Mid Prairie play, but maybe one game on a live stream earlier in the season. But he averaged 17.4 points per game and right at 6 rebounds per game. And he was the senior that led them this year. And they might have a couple more on the team. I know are one of our favorite football players there. Now his name escapes me. Ehrenfeld.
Hudson Ehrenfeld. Yeah, I think he's on the basketball team too.
I don't know. Yeah, he's a great basketball player, hard-nosed and stuff. I don't think he lit up the stat sheet quite like Bryce here, but they got some guys coming back for football and basketball. So Mid Prairie's set up for the next year or two still. But Bryce deserves a nod on my team here for what he did this season. And then my three underclassmen. I'm going to start with Isaiah Lang from Mount Pleasant. Now, his brother Noah deserves to be on this team. And I see he's making all conference first teams and stuff. But it's because of what he is and who he is. How good he is. He didn't get to play enough games this year was the only issue. He's just battling that knee injury. But Isaiah got to play in all of them.
Are you talking about?
He did great.
Are you talking about Isaiah Big Bang Lang?
That's the one. Now, I'm afraid that I'm a little more of a fan of his on the football field because that's my sport. But he was fun to watch on that basketball court too. He's kind of like a bull in a china shop out there. 14 points per game. Right at 8 rebounds per game, shot 59% from the field. Only a sophomore, Dave. He's got a lot of upside to him. I hope he can stay injury-free. Unlike, Noah's one of the best basketball players in the area, and that Mount Pleasant team is completely different when he's on the court.
Yeah.
That's how good those boys are. But Isaiah's the future there, so.
I got to see him a few times, and we did get the JV game on. That was the last game that we got to do. But his big game for me, the one I saw, was the game against Oskaloosa when they went up there and upset them up there. He really played terrific. But a lot of opportunities to see them with the great coverage that Southeast Iowa Union does. We had a big audience for that game, the JV game with them in Fairfield, and we might have had half of Texas watching. There's people from 3 different cities in Texas that were watching that game, and Mount Pleasant's a good audience for us, and we tried to get one more interview with their coach there, Coach Rawson, and it just didn't quite work out. But, I'm aware of how popular we are there and what a good audience they are, and always going to be with a school like that.
Yeah, a lot of history here in all sports, really. They've always excelled. There's been some up and downs here in more recent years, at least for football, but it's back on the rise, We got a great homegrown coach there now. Things are looking up here in Mount Pleasant. The basketball team, I think, might have record-wise underachieved what we thought they could have been this year, but they were battling a lot with the injuries and things like that. So, that's the kind of thing we were talking about when you first started this podcast, asking about the state, how to win state. Well, you got to have some luck and you got to stay away from injuries and things like that. Mount Pleasant just didn't have that kind of luck this year, but they were still a great team, especially when they had everybody out there that was supposed to be. And if I'm a Panther, I'm not hanging my head about how things went. It's just that's the way the ball bounces sometimes with luck, and they didn't have it always this year.
I come up with my favorite nickname in that game too for the year, Tater Salad. I can't remember his first name. His last name was Tate, but he was a terrific player, and I started calling him Tater Salad. And they got a couple of them Walker kids too, so we got some Texas Walker Rangers coming up, 2 of them. I hope they're as good as that other one that they had down there. He was sure terrific.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be talking too much.
No. Yeah, I suppose I better get wrapping this up myself. I do have some things I have to accomplish before I go home today. But Jet Morris, super sophomore from Burlington, man. I didn't get to see Burlington play much, just a couple pieces of their games, and they just looked really good all the way around. So I was like, man, I got to dig into these Hounds and see who the leader was. Sophomore Jet Morris led the team with 16.7 points per game scoring wise. Shot 35% from 3-point range, which is stellar. Like I said, I didn't get a ton of eyes on them this year. And then, of course, one guy I did get a ton of eyes on, who is the guy in the Southeast Iowa for the next 3 years if he keeps working and keeps developing, and that's Holy Trinity's Jack Regar. He's got senior stats already as a freshman, man. 14.6 points per game for the Crusaders. Led the team from his point guard spot with 6.6 rebounds per game and dished out almost 4 assists per game. So Jack is probably any given night that I watched a ball game this year, he's on that court. He's the highest IQ player on the court. And if he couples that with keeping his physical development going and all those things, because he's only a freshman, so there should be some growth happening and some strength happening over these next 3 years, he's going to be an all-time legend before it's all over. So I'm going to be dialed in to watch Trinity these next 3 years for sure, to see how he goes.
You're talking about another couple kids that I like the nicknames I give them. Jack Ragar, I called him Radar O'Reilly. And then we got Mercury Morris up there at Burlington. So, yeah, great. He had a great season, and I appreciate you bringing both of those young men up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you first, I mean, without a doubt, there's plenty of deserving kids that I left off this list because I didn't get to see them play or maybe overlooked them in my, trying to hurry up and put this together. But I think that's a pretty solid list of great players from Southeast Iowa, and there's certainly more, and there will be more. These underclassmen showing us their stuff in a year, and I'm looking forward to it.
No, I may have, like, say, a couple more interviews or something. We still have a little bit of time left we paid for here. But, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more subscribers I get, the more people can listen. They kind of restrict it, how many people can listen by how many subscribers you have. So, and once again, March 20th, we've got the Cedar Rapids Titans game with the Cavalry. It's a Friday night, and there's 7:00 start. Cedar Rapids Titans and Wyoming Cavalry. Thanks, Scott, for being with us. Is there anything we didn't get to talk about that you wanted to?
I don't think so. I just wanted to make sure we got to go over the game, and if you get Cody on and talk a little more in depth about the Burlington Notre Dame State game coming up Tuesday, I'll be all ears for that. But we got a little bit out there for it, and I want to get these kids' names out there and some of their stats and honor that hard work they put in this year. That's all I got for today.
Well, we started out with 40-some teams, and we're down to one. Basketball season, and Round Guy Ray is going to take a little well-deserved rest in between the baseball season and the basketball season. It's probably not going to cover much spring sports stuff. Maybe a talk to Andy Kretzinger or something once in a while.
Yeah.
Get you an update, but I noticed nobody listens when we talk spring sports, and I'm not wanting to just talk to hear myself talk, I guess, although you couldn't tell. Anyway, thanks for being with us, Scotty. YouTube, baby, that's where it's coming. See you later.